Eric and Roy with another Hatchet Cast episode, and this episode is about camouflage, the art of invisibility. If you haven't already and you enjoy our channel and our content, please hit that subscribe button as well as hit the like and notification bell so that way you can get any updates about new videos that are dropping from Hatchet Cast. We'll have shop talks, full Hatchet Cat episodes, as well as some training videos that we want to put out.
If you also would like to support us, you can always head over to gunandammoshop.com. Another big supporter of us so far has been wisemancompany.com. So head over. Ben has been a fantastic supporter. And then also JTAC Ranch, where we train at. And we're also ROs and instructors here. Come out and train with us. We also have Q here with us today. Q is with Ghost 5 Tactical, correct?
Yes, sir. And he's actually our first guest. So quick background on Q. From 07 to 10, he was getting into the recce skill set. He was in Iraq, and also from 10 to 14, he was assigned to a recce platoon, did some deployments to Afghanistan. 2012, he went to sniper school, and then he actually separated from the military, went to join the law enforcement community in 2015. 2016, he went through the SWAT course, SWAT sniper. In 2018, he started the Ghost 5 Tactical Company. Welcome, Q.
Thank you for having me very much.
Yeah. Real quick, Q, can you break down what is Ghost 5?
So Ghost 5 actually came from the last call sign that I had when I was at 417 Infantry. I was the sniper section leader for the battalion.
Nice.
And originally, I believe I was Ghost 1, and then they put me with a company, and I basically floated from company to company to company all through Afghanistan, and we just became Ghost 5. So I liked the name. It had a nice little ring to it, Ghost 5, and I figured that'd be a good, cool company name.
Yeah, it sounds pretty cool.
That's awesome. You also, I know we have talked before in the past out here at the ranch. You have a kind of like a charity that you do with Ghost 5, right?
Yeah. So it's not like an official 501c charity. Basically, what I do is I run a night match, PRS style. And when it comes time to get all the funds together, I collect all the money. And every single dime that I collect, I use to buy equipment for sniper teams, whether they be military or law enforcement. We've only had 2 sundown shootouts so far, and they've only been law enforcement teams. Right. We've gotten everywhere from tripods, full set of tripods. We've gotten rangefinders, bags, and infrared lights for night vision.
Cool.
We had teams out there, they didn't even have any infrared, so they had night vision but didn't know how to use it.
What a bunch of toads.
So you got, that's kind of like you see that a lot in any kind of service position, especially like law enforcement, how lack of equipment they have, right?
Absolutely. It's generally units will buy all the equipment that they're mandated to have, whether it be the cheapest thing out there or the nicest thing out there, but they'll have nothing to help support that equipment to make it be used effectively.
That's crazy.
Oh yeah.
Well, it's awesome to have you on the show, and today we're going to be talking about camouflage. I think you're kind of an expert about camouflage with your background. Also, we are going to have some injects and notes that we actually got from I'm brain farting on the name, right? Snake Pit podcast. So 2 sniper dudes, they have a podcast. If you want to go check them out, they talk about long range and all this other stuff, which is super in Roy's and Q's wheelhouse.
Q's a little more than mine.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a virgin in the world a little bit, but but I shoot okay.
Yeah. So we are going to have some notes from them, and we'll start off with camouflage. Like, what is it? Like, what's the basic stuff? What do you got?
So the basic steps to camouflage is basically don't be seen by the other guy, and always remember the golden rule.
Right.
Is if I can see you, you can see me.
Right.
So basically you're trying to use your surroundings, whether it be an urban environment, a desert environment, whatever environment, and blend into it and make it look absolutely natural and not so like, the fupa or fake.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I know a lot in the civilian aspect of world of camouflage, hunting and things like that. There's so much to choose from out there in that particular market. It almost seems like it can be overwhelming. Does camo come back to something that really, as far as just kind of keeping it simple? for the most part?
Well, it starts keeping it simple, and then it gets a little bit more advanced. So basically, you start reminding yourself of colors. All right. Then you start reminding yourself of shapes, sizes, hard lines, lighting, shadow. So you can, if you're wearing basic clothing, as long as it's somewhat close to the area that you're in, you can blend in. Okay. But you're not 100% camouflaged. You start playing tricks on the eyes,
right,
which allows you to camouflage. So it all starts there, and then you start getting into more advanced, because the closer I get to you, obviously I'm able to see you.
Right.
But the goal is to where I'm 10 feet away from you, and I still can't see you. So,
would you, I know the snake pit guys were saying that a lot of people really just overthink camouflage setup. Like it is. I'm going to say like, oh, well, this pattern's the best and this is the end all be all, or like, is there one general camouflage pattern that is good for almost every environment?
Absolutely not.
Okay. All right. Let's just crush that myth right there.
Absolutely not. So I've been blessed to meet so many different people,
right,
and I've met so many different snipers that I've learned from, and I'm still learning from these guys.
Yeah.
I got a buddy who's got a trash ghillie suit. When he was in Iraq, he actually hid in trash for about a day with his buddy.
Wow. That is crazy, man.
Sounds like me. I'm just a walking trash can myself.
So I doubt your multicam or your cryptic ghillie suit's going to do really great and where goats piss and everybody throws their trash out in the middle of the streets of Iraq.
Sure.
But he made a ghillie suit just for that.
Wow.
And then you go into a desert area. Then you have a completely different environment with completely different colors. Then you go into a jungle environment. Then you have completely different environment, completely different colors.
Sure.
So it's always changing. And you can say, hey, yeah, I got the new ACUs, which I don't really want to get started into that. But ACUs, they blend into everything. No,
yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
So
it's ever evolving. Your camo's changing with your environment, what you would say too. So from point A to point B, as you're moving throughout your environment, it's changing too, right?
Absolutely. So you're going to find yourself, and we'll get into it, I believe, more later on, is you're going to find yourself constantly revegetating or vegging. So if I start in an area that is mainly full of pine needles and I put 100% of pine needles all over my ghillie suit, and then I start going into an area that's completely green, well, now I'm just going to look like a giant brown ball in a set of green, and that's not camouflage. You're just a big target indicator.
What if, so for example, like let's just say I'm running just a basic uniform, a basic camouflage setup. Should I have different uniforms based off of different environments that I could find myself in, or would you recommend just like, hey, just stick with one pattern based off of your area?
Well, you might want to stick with a lighter base, if anything. So find the lightest color of your environment and stick with that. And the reason is you can always go darker, but you can never go lighter.
Right.
And
that's something the snake pit guys were saying.
Yeah, that's a very common theme with camouflage, and you'll find that is you'll see guys and they'll have a whole bunch of black on everything. Black, black, black. Well, black's not a really natural color, and if it is, you see a black in nature, it's very small. You're never going to see a giant piece of black everywhere. But it also depends on your mission set. There's different ghillies that serve different aspects of a mission. Are you in a recon team where you're just trying to keep yourself low key, or are you a sniper element that just broke off from an ORP that's going to be sitting watching an area, and you definitely need to maintain a full camouflage state and concealment. So
you're saying, and we could be crushing a lot of souls right now. M81, which is covered and got black blobs all over it. You're saying that's not effective?
No, M81 is 100% effective in all environments. Don't talk about my M81. Yeah, listen, M81, for you got to think about it. When you were a kid, go into an Army surplus store.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's M81 is just so iconic, and it's phenomenal, right? In all aspects, right?
So you got to tell me this. What is M81? So
it's woodland. It's the old school woodland before the ACU digital. Yes.
So there's nothing wrong with just woodland. But you'll find probably 90% of all the bases from ghillie suits starting from 2010 and back are all woodland camouflage. Why?
Right.
Because those guys were still in, and they used those bases.
Sure.
But what they also did is they also took a can of spray paint, and they started spray painting those pants. They added canvas to it with a lighter color, and then pretty much you don't even see your BDU pattern anymore.
For the average citizen, and for some guy who's just out there and like, hey, I want to be prepared, I want to have basic camouflage ideas, what are some things, whether it's picking out what type of base I want, so like a uniform, not even in a ghillie, I want to camouflage my equipment, I want to camouflage my gear, I want to camouflage what I'm wearing. What are some things that I need to consider right off the bat? Just when I'm, basic guy, just researching this stuff.
So again, we go back to color.
Yeah.
So find the lightest base in your environment that you believe that you're going to be in.
Right.
As far as your weapon, go ahead and paint it. Again.
Wait. Paint my rifle.
Yep.
But it costs me too much money.
Well, there's nothing wrong with a rattle can. If the Army let me put, $5 worth of paint on the M2010, the M24, my M4, and all that, I'm pretty sure you'll be fine with it.
Personally, I find it very relaxing to actually paint my rifles. So plus they look, they look cool too.
Yeah, we've been considered the Bob Ross of our community.
Well, if you want to be bougie,
Yeah.
you can always go out to a gun store, and then you can go get a Cerakote job, and then.
Which, real quick, while I have you on Cerakote, does that create any shine? Have you ever noticed anybody saying Cerakote creates shine?
So I've heard and seen different methods, and I got a friend of mine, Will Wingfield, over at 54 Effect, and he showed me that the more hardener that you start adding into that Cerakote, you're going to start seeing more shine.
Right.
But then again, that is another target indicator, shine.
Sure.
And I'll tell you this, I would use what are they called? Makeup sticks. And I would just run them down my gun. If I thought something was shiny, I'd take a makeup stick, like face paint makeup stick, and I'd run it down my gun.
Oh,
so
that's really handy right there. I mean,
Absolutely.
That's something that's in your kit in the field as you're moving through. It's like, man, I'm picking up too much shine. Just have that shine, have that with you.
I usually just take a rope, tie it around my gun, just drag it through a mud puddle. Oh, sorry.
That works too. So actually, as far as I know, I'm jumping ahead, but you hear guys talk about getting their equipment and their gear kind of almost drugged through the mud to a certain extent to gather kind of some of that more of that earth tone.
Absolutely, and the lazy way to do it is to put it behind your truck and go four-wheeling. Or do a proper ghillie wash. And ghillie wash is one of two different things. One, you're getting all of the suit worn in. It's stiff. It's got all this brand new canvas on here. It's got all the shoe goo or seam grip on there that's nice and stiff. And you want to break it loose and make it more flexible. But you also want to get your suit dirty and get rid of that initial industrial shine. I wouldn't say shine per se, but just it looks too clean to be outside.
So you would say that would be obviously from the civilian aspect. Back onto that question, something good for a civilian to do as they're outfitting their camo too, just being prepared to get rid of that shine, right?
Absolutely, and that's one of your target indicators: shine, shape, size, all that good stuff.
Yeah, so I mean, I've heard definitely that shine is a big deal. I know when I was we were listening to some of the notes that Snake Pit guys were talking about negative and positive space. What is negative space and positive space? So they were kind of saying positive space would be like a cave, right? So if you are standing and you look at a mountain and you see a cave, that's a positive space. Like I can see a giant empty black hole.
Yep.
Or I see a giant tree that sticks out like an oak tree within a group of pines.
Yes.
So like you want to be in that negative space.
Absolutely.
And not stick out. Whether you got a ghillie or whatever you're wearing, just don't be positive space.
That makes sense. I've never actually heard it called positive and negative space.
Okay. Yeah.
But then again, I've been out of the Army community since 2014, and
Sure.
these new phrases come out and all that. And it could have been an older phrase that I just didn't pick up because TBI, whatever you want to say. But definitely, so big trees out there.
Yeah.
It's the things that catch your eyes.
Right.
So it's more of a common sense thing. If I look around, I'm like, man, if I was a guy, I would definitely hide right behind that big old tree because nobody could see me behind that tree. well, that's the first place I'm going to look.
Right.
You know, it's just a little, you know, your head, how your mind thinks and how normal people think. If you see a little black hole, man, that's a really dark place, and you know nobody can see anything in there. Well, that's the first place I'm going to look.
Yeah, people think about darkness as far as like a place to hide, but your eyes actually kind of draw to it, right?
Absolutely. But then again, as a sniper or a person who's trying to be camouflage, you want to stay in the shadows because now you're reducing your shine, and all right, it's easier to blend in the shadow of the trees than it is to be out in the open sun, because now you're casting your own shadows, and when you move, those are quick target indicators. Oh, got it. Sniper's right there. I can see the shadow just moving. It just looks unnatural to me.
Right.
So
if I'm going to, you talked about like, hey, kind of see your colors. You can't go lighter. You can always go darker. So I know that the Snake Pit dudes were also talking about color reference. So like looking at colors and what's the most abundant color in your environment.
Absolutely.
That could also, would you say, dictate what kind of base layer, like camo pattern, bag, chest rig, plate carrier that I should buy? Would you recommend like camouflage vomit, where I've got a BDU M81 carrier and a multicam bottom, tiger stripe top? You know what I'm saying? Like,
so in all honesty, I know this is going to hurt a lot of the gear guys.
Oh boy.
So if you're worried about your environment changing often, then it's not the gear pattern that you need to change. It's the fact that you need to get a can of spray paint and you need to spray paint your Gucci gear. So because if you're truly an operator of the world, but you really love that chest rig that's all in cryptic and multicam or whatever you want to have, you're going to lose it. If you're really serious about what you're doing, get a can of spray paint out, and you need to start doing work on it.
Right.
Yeah, you said that earlier, right? When guys were stuck with the M81 Woodland, which is kind of dark, right? We're trying to start light. They would spray paint it.
Absolutely.
What about movement? Is movement that big of a deal?
Absolutely. So when they talk about movement, generally, if you're going to be in an open field and you can observe where your target area is going to be, you're going to be walking straight towards it and not, what is it called, laterally? Yeah. So laterally. Because your eyes are going to pick up something moving left and right a lot easier. Think about that deer or that pig out in the field that you've been sitting on waiting for every day, but it's actually been walking closer and closer to you every day. All day, and it's actually
just say every day.
Yeah,
how long have you been out there? That's some dedication there.
So because it's walking towards you,
right,
you can't sense the movement of that deer or that animal or that person, because it's not much to pick up. But when something starts moving laterally, your eyes pick it up a lot easier. So movement is very important. So, and it's very good to, if you're a horrible land naver, or you just don't get the concept of, moving through different environments, you're going to have a bad time.
Sure.
So,
very interesting. Well, kind of jumping into ghillie suits, because we could, this episode literally could be hours.
Yeah, there's so many, and we're not going to be able to get across every topic when it comes to camo here. I mean, 35 minutes of talking isn't going to cover everything, and you're not going to become an expert off of this.
This is the basic stuff. So I know everybody's going to want to know about it. Let's start talking about ghillie suits. We already talked about finding a good base. So do I just attach as much, what we call jute, to my ghillie suit and just look like a freaking giant fuzzball?
Good Lord, no, you'd be the ghillie monster.
Roger.
But I'll tell you this, just a quick step back on bases.
Okay.
So there are different bases that you can do. And just not going into Cobra hoods and stuff like that. We're actually talking ghillie suits. There's flight suits. There's full suits. There's pre-made suits. Okay.
Like on Amazon and stuff like that?
Not just Amazon, like Cry. Makes it. One of my ghillie suits out there is a Cry base.
Okay.
And then one of my ghillie suits out there is DCU Camo.
Right.
Where I started from the base. And I've even seen people do flight suits. They all have their advantages and disadvantages. So you need to figure out, like, which do you like best and which is going to serve the mission best.
Okay.
So.
For your ghillie, you talked about spray painting. So we saw your ghillie had a lot of spray paint points. Some basic 101 stuff. Can I just go on Amazon and just buy a ghillie suit, like a giant Chewbacca suit? Or what are some things to stay away from? What are some just
You can absolutely go on Amazon right now and buy you a ghillie suit, but as soon as you start crawling, you're going to hate your life for the rest of the time.
Right.
Because you're going to be tripping on everything. Most of the ghillie suits you see on Amazon are almost 100% jute.
Wow.
And I'll tell you this, being in the Army and even being a cop, I'm wet all the time.
Yeah.
And when jute gets wet, it adds about 50 to, I feel like 100 pounds has been added to me, and then you just feel miserable.
Sure.
And then it doesn't dry quick either.
Yeah.
So, if you want to actually buy one on Amazon, you're going to have a bad time. So I would highly recommend just building it yourself. Take the time, make it yours, customize it to yours.
Wow.
So,
to your environment, yeah.
Well, not just to your environment, but to you.
So like putting it on, wearing it, making sure it's
Exactly.
custom fit for you.
Do you want stirrups in those locations? Do you want pockets in certain locations? Do you want pads on your chest?
Yeah.
I know this in sniper school. I was happy that I put a full-on PT pad in front because I went through the winter and it was absolutely miserable. I was wet and cold all the time.
Yeah.
My ghillie suit didn't dry through all the stock phase of sniper school.
Wow.
So I was cold all the time, but at least I was coming off the ground. When you're crawling over rocks, when you're crawling over trees, it hurts.
Yeah.
There's nothing cool about being a sniper except for saying it.
Yeah. Right.
So
it does sound cool, though.
So I know some of the things that the snake pit guys are saying, good canvas. So like an aviator's kit bag, like a drag bag, even, a duffel bag from like a military surplus store, putting it in your high friction areas. So like you were saying, your chest, your elbows,
Absolutely.
your hands. And then also, putting it on and finding contact points.
Yes.
So kind of break down, you kind of already broke down contact points of like where you're going to be spending most of your body is going to be touching the earth. Right?
Absolutely.
And then also like fish netting and then 550 cords. You said tie downs before. What is a tie down?
So now that you have, so you've got your canvas on there for your rough points and your contact points, but you also have your netting on there for your jute. So you got tie downs, and tie downs are extremely important because you want to veg. The book answer is 50-50. You want 50% vegetation, 50% jute.
Right.
That's not true because you're going to get found and then you're going to fail.
Okay.
You almost want hopefully my math isn't bad. Was it 30-60? Nope, 70-30.
I was like, we're all looking at each other like, don't ask me about math.
I'm like, I got my fingers crossed, and man, Q, please don't ask me.
So that being said, you want about 30% jute and 70%, vegetation.
Right.
And the only way that vegetation is going to stay on there is tying it down.
Right.
And my best friend is rubber bands, 550 cord, and hair ties.
Okay.
And you're going to want that because when you start crawling, guess what comes off your suit? Vegetation.
Right.
And then guess what? When all that falls off, guess what you have to do? You have to revegetate.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and if you can tie it into your jute, but then your jute starts looking like a whole bunch of knots after about 2 or 3 stalks.
Yeah.
You want that jute to mesh in. You want it to mix in with the vegetation. You want it to help break out your outline. You want to become not a human figure. You want to become a mesh of everything else. Wow. You want to take your head, not make it look like a little round top. You want to make it look almost into a wedge almost.
Yeah, and that's something that those guys were saying, like Moss from Snake Pit. They were saying that the head and the shoulders are the most identifiable human feature because it's unnatural. Like
Absolutely.
It's just an easy thing to pick out. So making it where you can blend the head and the shoulders together, where you don't see, it just becomes, like you said, a wedge, is something to go for.
Breaking up that structure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Would you recommend? So, just due to time, blending in also can pertain to a group of people. So if I'm walking with a group of people, when do I put my ghillie on? When do I not put it on? If I stick out like a sore thumb, I know for me in Afghanistan, we had identifier patches due to our specialties, and they started to target us. Hey, if they got stuff on their patches and they look like they've got high-speed stuff on and their gun's painted, target them because they bring something to the fight that is really bad. So,
absolutely.
Kind of blending into the group is also a form of camouflage, like blending into who you're with, right?
Absolutely. So, once again, I hate saying this, and I learned this from the Army enough, it's METTC. If you don't know it, mission, enemy, time, terrain, troops on the battlefield, and civilians. Yeah. That's how you're going to judge everything that needs to be. But as far as like blending in with the group, say you're doing an infill overtly, Or it's still covertly, but you're doing it somewhat overtly by being with a line platoon. You're walking with this line platoon, and when you go into this house, you're going to take over this house, and the line platoon is going to leave, and then you're there. But you definitely didn't walk in with sniper rifles all in. You broke your sniper rifle down. You put it in a ruck. You put it in a bag.
And just carried like your battle rifle.
You carried your basic issued M4. Probably one of the other ways that we've done it, we've done false insertions. So we landed here, then we dropped off here, and then we landed at another place.
Yeah.
So it just comes on of how you're going to blend in. We've even done it to where I think one of my last missions we got with a route clearance unit. And they went out and did their 525s a couple of times. And when they did their 525s, we actually stayed down in the wadi, and they picked up and left. So, but we look like the guys who are attached there. The bad thing about that is the one identifier is you got like 4 guys out there with a ruck on because he's got to carry all that stuff, that water, that food, your security, and that sucks.
Yeah.
So, unlike the movies, you're never walking in just with a ghillie suit and a gun.
Yeah.
90% of the time, you got 4 guys who are loaded down with batteries, water, food, and optics.
When do I put on a ghillie? So, like, would I walk? Because I really want to hit on what they call scorpion hoods.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, scorpion hoods.
Okay, so when do I put a ghillie on? Do I start my patrol if I'm walking through the woods? Do I just throw my ghillie on and go, or do I bust it out of a bag in a few minutes, or what?
Well, if you put on the ghillie at the beginning of your operation, you're going to be sucking at life, unless you literally just got dropped on the objective, and again, you're going to be sucking at life because everybody knows you're there. So essentially, when you get time to where the enemy is nearby or your objective is nearby, you're ready to. You have probably about 4. No, I wouldn't say 4. I'd say 2 to 3 clicks of movement left.
Right.
Put on the ghillie. Plot your route. That's a huge thing. Plot your route. Okay, and then start your movement.
Kind of going in that straight line towards your target, right?
Straight line towards your target or the most concealed route. So if you can conceal your lateral movement, then that's how you're going to plot your route. So, and the old saying is if the grass is above your head, then take a knee. If you're taking a knee and it's still above your head, then you start crawling and further and further and further down.
Okay.
Until you're just skull dragging.
Wow.
So.
I love skull dragging. It's my favorite hobbies.
You make being a sniper sound so much like fun.
It's not. It's not.
Oh, but the movies make it look so cool.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So, Scorpion hoods. Let's talk about them. I know they're really popular. It's on Tarkov, like that new video game, Escape from Tarkov. Like that's a big deal. What I've heard from the Snake Pit guys, they're kind of saying like, "Hey, these are pretty awesome." Like. What are your thoughts?
So they are viable. Again, it's the mission's going to dictate it. Right. So if you're a kitted out dude and you might be expecting contact, but you still want to keep your signature lower, then absolutely any camouflage is better than no camouflage.
Right.
I started some of my SWAT sniper guys. They're looking into those hoods, and the main reason is because most of the time. Their movements are going to be concealed from their waist down, and the only thing up in the area is going to be waist up that they'll be able to see.
Right.
So, and it's all on how you're going to use it to your advantage. It just comes down to what your mission is and how do you need to affect that mission. So,
which it's called a Cobra hood. I just remembered. It's not a Scorpion hood. I don't whatever dragon jacket. I don't know.
Close enough.
Yeah.
Talking about that as far as SWAT snipers and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. What about? Yeah, we live out in the middle of nowhere in the woods, but there's a lot of people in a more urban environment. Like, what you got any experience in that? Like you were talking about just a minute ago, training those guys, SWAT snipers, as far as blending in an urban environment.
So that comes down to your hide. We have vehicle hides. I got a great picture of me hiding in somebody's garage and holding it from 3 houses down. It just depends on your environment of how you're going to set it up. Do my guys carry ghillie suits? Absolutely, because there are woodland areas. But for the most part, sometimes they're just in their battle dress uniform, and they have to basically build a hide for that camouflage. And that hide is being something that's constructed to make it look natural hiding that position. Or in the Army world, your FFP.
Sound kind of like your buddy who dressed up a ghillie in trash.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. If I'm going to camouflage my body, right? Let's kind of jump into painting rifles or camouflaging my equipment and my rifle, right?
Okay.
So, should I paint my rifle?
Absolutely.
Yeah, bet your balls. Freaking rifle.
What are some other techniques outside of just painting? I mean, as far as breaking up that shape, that structure of a rifle, that's something that's very defined. Everyone that's ever watched the movie knows what a rifle looks like.
Absolutely. So one of the biggest things, like I said, that has helped me is camo sticks. Get your light colored camo sticks out. If you need to change the color or lighten it up some, even a black, that heavy paint on there. I know I said it's hard to make stuff, or you can't go lighter. With those camo sticks, they run on so heavily that you can make it lighter. However, you're going to have a crap ton of makeup all over that gun, but it's something to help break down that shine. It's something to change the color a little bit. Next thing, rubber bands. I'll say it one more time, rubber bands.
Wait, are you talking about rubber bands?
Rubber bands.
Oh, okay, yeah, freaking rubber bands. Got it.
Take vegetation, put it on your rifle. I got another picture I can give you guys. We camouflaged a M107, and from about 10 feet, you can't tell that that's there. But what I can tell you is there's about 30 rubber bands on that gun.
Right.
And then you got to worry about that next shot. So with the 107, it puts off a lot of pressure and a lot of, air. So is it going to stay on? You might get 2 shots, but 3 shots, I haven't seen anything hold up to that.
It's funny. I mean, you say rubber bands. It's such a simple tool.
Absolutely.
To have, and it goes back to that. Sometimes a lot of people do overcomplicate. They start laying patterns when they're painting their rifle. Those patterns look really, really cool, but once again, you're just trying to break up the shape, right? Throwing some rubber bands on there, some
Hair
paint
ties.
sticks, hair ties, things that you have laying around in your house or your office, your place of work, that you can grab a handful of, throw it in your kit, right?
Absolutely. Well, the biggest... Oh, go ahead.
Well, I mean, say, even like a basic survival tool, having face paint. Upkeeping that face paint, because I remember in the military, stuff like that, it was like always coming off. So always having that face paint there is such an easy tool that you already have on you or should have on you to kind of hit that shine and stuff like that.
Absolutely. And the number one thing not to forget are the 2 black holes that your gun creates. Okay? The black hole of death or the black hole of your no-go at sniper school. And what that is...
Tell me more.
Tell me about what is this?
So you need to create what's known as a bird's nest or somewhat of a screen for the hole of your gun or the hole of your scope. And what happens is guess what? Remember what's not natural? Circles, right?
Right.
Not
or straight
fine.
lines.
Or straight lines or big black holes.
Right.
First thing that you see, you don't see a black hole. So what do you do?
About caves?
Caves, same thing.
All right, good.
So what you're wanting to do is you want to take a bird's nest and usually take what the vegetation is there and you can put it inside the scope. It's not going to scratch it up. At least most scopes today, they're very well protected. You put some grass in there or something to get rid of that scope, that black hole of death or whatever you want to call it, or you can create a screen in front of it. And you let your scope burn through the vegetation. So don't do it too much so you can't see the objective, but you do it enough to where it hides the blackness from the scope. And then for in front of your rifle, you want to make sure that you don't have a tossed salad after you fire. So you want to make sure that the screen is going to protect it from no black hole right there, or you can put something over it, or you're going to make sure that the area around it isn't loose. So
talking about the tossed salad there, me and Eric have been playing around with this and setting it up. And the very first time that we laid the screen over, Eric went to take a shot, and the entire thing just blew off of him.
Oh, sweet, nice. There goes my frig. Yeah. So what about like manufactured ones, like manufactured screens or sunshades?
Absolutely.
Or, okay.
I've seen duct tapes where you do the 2 straight lines. Not a fan of it.
Yeah.
There's some companies out there. I believe there's another podcast out there, the Conventional Sniper Podcast. Mm-hmm. He actually designed one that goes over the objective lens, and it comes over, and it's a nice little screen. I've also taken mesh, and I've just taken a rubber band and taken that rubber band, put it over the scope, and that helps reduce it as well.
Man, that's so cool. What about equipment? Let's talk real quick about bags, because I know, can I put jute on my rucksack? Should I put jute or anything like that on my bags, or should I just use natural veg, or just find a good pattern?
Go back to rubber bands.
Go back to...
The answer is yes.
Yeah, okay, nice. I like it when I get stuff right.
Do whatever you can to camouflage it, but also you got to remember, as a operator, an infantryman, whatever you are, make sure that you don't affect the functionality of it. And if you do affect the functionality of it, you need to be able to take it off almost instantly. I actually brought you in a little gift. It actually wraps around your rucksack, and you can have jute and tie downs on there. And again, you need to spray paint the base for it. So that covers up your rucksack.
Dibs, Roy. I got it. That's awesome. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. For the if I don't want to paint my rifle, you kind of talked about having rubber bands and stuff like that. What about like weapons wrap tape? You know what I'm talking about, like printed patterns?
It's absolutely great, but remember when you start wrapping barrels and pulling it tight, whatnot, you might affect the functionality of the rifle, or it's zero,
or it melts,
or it melts, depending on if you get. Hopefully, your sniper rifle isn't getting that hot.
Talk about as far as melting, things like that. In consideration, what about smell? Is that something that is
absolutely,
especially if you're in a woodland area, right?
Yeah.
Well, generally, I'll tell you this. I haven't gone to links of some of my, I guess, ancestral snipers to where I'm eating the local food, except for, when we got some foot bread or we got some goats or falafels. Can't turn those down.
Yeah.
But as far as like not showering for days and whatnot, smell is a big issue if you're expecting contact very close to you. I've been on a hide site where I didn't know what a fiber 1 bar is, and we took apart a whole bunch of MREs, and we all ate a whole bunch of fiber 1 bars, and we're farting up there in the mountains. But as far as like smell, it really just comes down to like how close are you going to be to that enemy. So right. I haven't been that close to the enemy as far as like crawling and hiding.
Ideally, you don't want to be that close.
Yeah. I mean, if you are though wrapping your battle rifle, or if you are spray painting your own, your general purpose rifle,
I've seen
can
guys
get hot.
Yeah, I've seen guys spray paint. Talk about is from a general purpose rifle standpoint, running a suppressor where guys have spray painted their suppressors, and that smells awful as soon as you start shooting.
And it also turns funky colors.
It does.
Absolutely. But if you're running into that problem right then and there, I mean, the situation's past the point of smell.
Yeah. And camouflage at that point.
Yeah, very true.
Yeah, Roger. Man, what else you got, Roy?
Man, we got all kinds of stuff. I mean, this topic, we got all kinds of stuff. This topic can keep on going and going. One of the questions I had was, what kind of experience do you have, especially nowadays with nighttime optics being
thermals,
so available? I mean, pretty much almost anybody can pick up a thermal optic now.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So one of the craziest things I ran into, I believe it was Christopher Rance at the Sundown Shootout. I believe if it's not you, I'm sorry, buddy. And we're talking about how snipers are pretty much only using thermals these days.
Yeah.
And I just got a beautiful taste of thermals in Afghanistan with the LRTV, which is about a $75,000 viewer. You can actually watch the bullet in flight onto your target.
Wow.
We had a little front clip on that we used in Afghanistan, and at 600 yards, we were lethal. Even at 1,000, we felt pretty lethal. But being a sniper, generally most of your kills are going to be over the radio. But as far as like night vision, we still use it. But the truth is thermal is king, except when you're at dusk or dawn.
Yeah.
So at that point, you are fighting all the temperature changes of the day.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and as far as like thermals, the way to defeat it is thermal stacking, using thermal blankets. We started training hardcore on this after we got issued thermals, and then we realized, well, the bad guy probably has thermal, so how are we going to beat it? So we would go up against the strikers' remote weapon systems, and we'd say, hey, I want you to crawl up as close as you can get to this striker before he sees you. And the biggest thing we saw is that we had to use thermal stacking, and thermal stacking is basically using the next brush, and that's my new route. Have that brush cover me with its thermal signature. And if we had a time to pick, we'd always pick a time of dusk or dawn where the thermals are very finicky, because now the air temperature as well as the ground temperature is starting to match each other.
Wow.
So as far as defeating thermals, that's pretty much where you're going to come into is you need to train it, you need to practice it, and then if you have a choice of when you're going to make your movements, you need to schedule your time with your movements.
Yeah. Once again, training with all your kit, your gear, every aspect of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting.
Awesome. Yeah.
If you had to give one final word of advice in terms of, camouflage, some considerations to make, what are some final thoughts that you just want to leave our listeners?
If you want to be very good at camouflaging, you need to practice at target detection. Okay? So if you can understand how to detect targets, all right, you can understand how to become a better person at camouflage. One of the no-goes at sniper school is target detection.
Right.
They put, I think it's 10 or 15 items out there, and they're all regular items. There's a flashlight, there's a push rod, there's a compass, there is a map, there's a piece of C4, there's a...
just a piece?
There's a there's a cell phone out there,
right.
and it's all across the wood line. You have the optic from your scope, you have the your binos, and then you have your normal eyes. All right, you have 30 minutes to find them. Go. All right, and if you don't get, I believe it's 80%, it's a no-go. Well, what it helps you do is it helps you really hone in on those factors: shine, shape, size, color. All right, background. Background's a huge thing in camouflage, because if you only match in your foreground, but your front portion is not matching the background, well, then
it's
you stick out.
contrasting and not blending.
Exactly. That's why you should train in target detection. It's very simple. Go out in your backyard and do it. Have your wife, have your kids go hide stuff, and now it's the hide and seek for you. Sit in a chair, drink a beer, try to find the stuff.
If I drink a beer, I won't find anything.
Definitely.
So, but that's what I would say. If you want to become great at camouflage, practice target detection.
Wow.
And when you start understanding target detection, then you start understanding camouflage.
Yeah, it goes once again back to training. That's all we ever talk about.
Yeah.
Every episode is putting time in behind your equipment, investing in yourself, right? So getting out there physically, go on a hike through the woods. If there's a trail, or like you said, Q, go in your backyard, have your wife, have your kids hide some different objects in there.
Absolutely.
And try to detect them, try to find them.
I know if you hide your wallet, you will have a lot of determination to find that.
Listen, I don't even know where my wallet is. My wife stole my wallet.
Oh, nice. Well, everybody, thanks again for tuning in. This was another Hatchet Cast episode, Camouflage, the Art of Invisibility. And it was awesome having Q on to talk about that and share his experiences and his knowledge. And of course, that's what this is all about, just having a conversation and talking and passing on knowledge. So if you want, please hit the comment section up. Let us know your experiences. If you are experiencing camouflage or have some knowledge, throw it in there and continue the conversation. We have seen so much positivity in that comment feed with people just wanting to share knowledge and help each other out, and it's been super rad. This is Eric
and Roy, and before we go real quick, Q, I know you have a website, right? And you also have some social media.
I do. So my website is www.ghost5tactical.com. My Instagram's Ghost5Tactical, and Facebook is Ghost5Tactical.
Yeah, guys, definitely head over there. Really easy to remember, Ghost5Tactical, and give him a follow for sure. Q is a fantastic long range instructor also. Take a look at jtacranch.com. Sign up for one of his classes. Come out and train with us, guys.
We'll have to do a camouflage class.
Oh, dude, that'd be great.
Dude, we're going to restart this conversation. 4 hours later, we're still sitting here.
Freaking. Well, while you're going on Instagram, if you want to check out any behind-the-scenes stuff with Barrel and Hatchet, or any updates to any of our episodes, or get any information about new episodes coming out, go check out our Instagram page as well. And once again, we'll see you on the next one.